If you're booking a long flight in 2026 and have to choose between sitting on a Boeing 777 or a 787, one wrong pick could leave you stuck in a drier cabin for 14 hours or burning through way more fuel than needed. Let's break down which one comes out on top so you know exactly what to expect. Alright, so today we're diving deep into the Boeing 777 versus the Boeing 787, especially looking ahead to 2026 when new updates and more deliveries are rolling out. Both are huge wide-body jets from Boeing, built for those marathon trips across oceans, like from New York to Tokyo or LA to Sydney. The 777's been around since the 90s, hauling tons of people and cargo, while the 787, or Dreamliner as they call it, came out in 2011 with all these fresh ideas on saving fuel and making flights feel less like a drag. In 2026, Boeing plans to crank up production on both, with the 777 getting its fancy new X version certified and the 787 keeping its spot as the efficiency king. We'll compare them head-to-head in a bunch of key areas, from how they look on the outside to what it's like inside: engines, speed, how far they go, who they carry, costs, safety stuff, and even how green they are. By the end, you'll see which one fits better for airlines or just for your next vacation seat. First up, let's talk about size and dimensions, because that's the first thing you notice when these beasts pull up to the gate. The Boeing 777 is generally the bigger brother here. Take the popular 777-300ER model, which is still flying strong into 2026. It's 242 feet long, with a wingspan of 212 feet and 7 inches, and stands about 60 feet and 8 inches at the tail. That length means it can stretch out more, giving room for extra seats or cargo holds. Now, the upcoming 777-9, which Boeing aims to get certified and delivering by 2026, pushes that even further. It's 251 feet and 9 inches long, with a massive wingspan of 235 feet and 5 inches when fully extended. But get this, those wingtips fold up to 212 feet and 7 inches, so it fits at standard gates without needing special spots. The height is 64 feet and 6 inches, making it tower over most other planes. That extra size isn't just for show. It lets the 777 handle rougher runways or hotter airports because of the stronger landing gear and bigger tires, which are 50 inches in diameter compared to smaller ones on other jets. The fuselage is wider too, at 20 feet and 4 inches across on the outside, which translates to more space inside. On the flip side, the Boeing 787 is sleeker and a bit smaller overall, designed to be nimble for medium to long hauls. The 787-8, the shortest one, is 186 feet long, with a wingspan of 197 feet and 4 inches and height of 55 feet and 6 inches. Step up to the 787-9, which is super common. It's 206 feet long, same wingspan, same height. Then the longest, the 787-10, stretches to 224 feet, still with that 197-foot wingspan and 56-foot height. Notice how the 787 keeps the wingspan consistent across models. That's because Boeing optimized it for efficiency, with those signature raked and curved wingtips that cut drag by up to 5% compared to straight wings. The fuselage diameter is 18 feet and 11 inches, so it's narrower than the 777, which means airlines can't cram as many seats side by side. Externally, the 777 looks more muscular with its 6-wheel bogies on each main landing gear. That's 12 wheels total under the wings, built for heavy loads up to 775,000 pounds at takeoff for the 777-9. The 787 uses 4-wheel bogies, lighter at around 560,000 pounds max takeoff for the 787-10, so it's easier on runways and burns less during taxi. If you're spotting them from the ground, the 777 has that classic Boeing nose with bigger engines hanging lower, while the 787 has a smoother, more pointed nose and those huge electrochromic windows that dim without shades. In 2026, with more 777-9s hitting the skies, you'll see those folding wings in action at busy hubs like Dubai or Frankfurt, saving gate space that the fixed-wing 787 doesn't need to worry about as much. Moving on to engines and performance, this is where things get exciting because it directly affects how these planes fly and what they cost to run. The Boeing 777 packs some of the most powerful engines in the sky. For the 777-300ER, it's two General Electric GE90-115B turbofans, each cranking out 115,300 pounds of thrust. That's enough to launch a fully loaded plane weighing 775,000 pounds into the air. These engines are monsters with a fan diameter of 128 inches, sucking in massive air volumes for better climb rates. Top speed is Mach 0.84, or about 644 miles per hour at cruise, and it can climb to 43,100 feet altitude. Acceleration on takeoff is solid. It needs around 10,000 feet of runway at sea level. But in hot conditions like Phoenix in summer, that GE90 power helps it perform without cutting payload. For the 777-9 in 2026, Boeing switches to the GE9X, which is even bigger at 134-inch fan diameter, but dialed to 105,000 pounds each. Why less thrust? Because the new composite wings and lighter materials make the plane more efficient, so it doesn't need as much raw power. The GE9X uses 10% less fuel than the GE90, with advanced ceramic matrix composites that handle higher temperatures for better burn. Compare that to the 787, which offers a choice: General Electric GEnx-1B or Rolls-Royce Trent 1000. For the 787-9, the GEnx puts out 74,000 pounds thrust per engine with a 111-inch fan. The Trent is similar, around 78,000. These are bleedless engines, meaning they don't pull air from the compressor for cabin systems, which saves fuel and reduces maintenance. Cruise speed is also Mach 0.85, slightly faster at 652 miles per hour, and max altitude 43,100 feet, same as the 777. Takeoff runway is shorter, about 8,500 feet for the 787-9. Thanks to lighter weight, max takeoff is 560,000 pounds. Performance-wise, the 787 climbs quicker initially because of its lower weight-to-thrust ratio, reaching 35,000 feet in about 20 minutes versus 25 for the 777. But the 777 can push through turbulence better due to its size. In 2026, with Boeing ramping up 787 deliveries to over 10 per month, airlines like United or American will have more of these with upgraded engines that cut noise by 60% compared to older jets, making them perfect for noise-restricted airports like London Heathrow. The 777's engines roar louder, but the new GE9X on the 777-9 drops noise footprint by 40%, closing the gap. Now, range and fuel efficiency. This is huge for airlines deciding what to buy in 2026. The 777-300ER can fly 7,370 nautical miles non-stop, like from San Francisco to Singapore with 365 passengers. It burns about 6.8 tons of fuel per hour at cruise, totaling around 100 tons for a long flight. The 777-9 extends that to 7,285 nautical miles, but with better efficiency. It uses 20% less fuel than the older 777 models per seat because of those new wings and engines. That means on a New York to Hong Kong route, it could save thousands of gallons per trip. Fuel capacity is massive at 52,300 US gallons. The 787 shines here. The 787-9 hits 7,635 nautical miles, edging out the 777 slightly, and burns only 5.3 tons per hour, 20% less than the 777 overall, because of its carbon fiber body that's 50% composites, versus the 777's mostly aluminum with only 12% composites, until the 777X bumps it to more. The 787-10, though, trades range for capacity at 6,430 nautical miles, perfect for shorter long hauls like Chicago to Rome. Fuel tank holds 33,500 gallons, less than the 777, but enough since it's lighter. In real terms, a 787 flight from LA to London uses about 20% less fuel per passenger than a 777 on the same route, which adds up to millions in savings yearly for an airline. By 2026, with fuel prices possibly spiking, the 787's edge in efficiency could make it the go-to for routes under 7,000 miles, while the 777 handles the ultra-long ones like Perth to London non-stop. Passenger capacity is another big differentiator. The 777 is built for volume. The 777-300ER in a typical 3-class setup seats 365 people, 42 in business, 28 in premium economy, 295 in economy, but airlines can pack it to 550 in all economy for charters. The wider cabin allows 10 seats across in economy at a 3-4-3 layout with 17-inch seats. For the 777-9, it's up to 426 in 2-class or 400 in 3-class, with room for lie-flat beds in business spanning 78-inch pitch. That means more revenue per flight for busy routes. The 787 is more mid-size. The 787-9 seats 290 in 2-class or 259 in 3-class standard, with a 3-3-3 economy layout giving 17.2-inch seats, slightly wider per seat than the 777's crammed setup. The 787-10 boosts to 330 in 2-class, stretching the fuselage for extra rows.
It's great for point-to-point flights, like direct from secondary cities, carrying fewer but more comfortably. In 2026, as Boeing delivers more 777-8710s, expect airlines to use them for high-frequency routes where the 777 might be overkill. Inside, the interior comfort and features make or break your flight experience. The 777 has a spacious feel with high ceilings at 7 feet 1 inch in the center and quieter cabins thanks to soundproofing that drops noise to 80 decibels. Seats in business are often 21 inches wide with 60-inch pitch, and economy gets power outlets, USB ports, and in-flight entertainment screens up to 15 inches. But the air is drier at 10% humidity, and cabin pressure is equivalent to 8,000 feet altitude, which can make you feel more tired on long flights. The 777-9 upgrades with LED lighting that mimics daylight and bigger overhead bins holding 60% more bags. Each bin fits 4 roller bags sideways. The 777-87 takes comfort to another level. Its cabin humidity is 16%, twice the 777's, because the composite fuselage doesn't corrode, so they pump in more moisture. That means less dry eyes and throat after 10 hours. Cabin altitude is lower at 6,000 feet, reducing headaches and fatigue. Studies show passengers feel 8% less jet lag. Windows are 65% bigger, 19 inches tall, and dim electronically with a button, no shades needed. Overhead bins are huge, fitting 5 bags per section, and the air filtration swaps cabin air every 2 minutes, with HEPA filters catching 99.97% of particles. Economy seats are 17 to 18 inches wide, business up to 22 inches with 80-inch lie flats. LED lights change colors for mealtimes or sleep, and the ride is smoother due to gust suppression tech that cuts turbulence feel by 50%. In 2026, with updated interiors on new 787s, things like wireless charging and bigger screens will be standard, making it feel more modern than the 777's classic setup. Price and operating costs. This matters for who buys them. A new Boeing 777-300ER lists at $375 million, but airlines negotiate down to around $180 to $200 million. The 779 is pricier at $442 million list, with deals around $220 million. Hourly operating cost is about $12,000, including fuel at $5,000 per hour, maintenance $2,000, crew $3,000. The 777-879 lists at $292.5 million, discounted to $140 to $160 million, and the 777-8710 at $338 million. Operating cost is lower at $9,500 per hour, with fuel at $4,000 thanks to efficiency. Maintenance is cheaper too, since composites don't corrode, saving 30% over aluminum planes. By 2026, with Boeing's positive cash flow for more deliveries, prices might stabilize, but the 777 remains the budget pick for efficiency-focused airlines. Safety and reliability are top-notch for both. The 777 has flown over 1,800 planes with 0 hull loss accidents from design flaws. Its fly-by-wire system has triple redundancy, and engines can run on one if needed. Dispatch reliability is 99.4%. The 777 matches that with advanced sensors detecting issues early, and its composite body is stronger against fatigue. It had battery issues early on, but fixed now with 99% reliability. Both have evacuation slides for 90-second exits, and in 2026, new software updates will add predictive maintenance using AI. Environmental impact: the 777-9 cuts emissions by 20% per seat versus older 777s, with NOx 30% below standards, but it still guzzles more fuel overall. The 777-87 is greener, 25% less emissions than the 767 it replaces, and 10 to 15% better than the 777 per passenger mile, with quieter engines meeting Stage 5 noise rules. Wrapping it all up, if you need max capacity and range for packed routes in 2026, go with the 777. It's the workhorse with that extra power and space. But for efficiency, comfort on medium-long flights, and lower costs, the 777-87 pulls ahead, especially with its modern cabin that makes you feel better after landing. Depending on the route, one might edge out the other, but both are solid choices pushing aviation forward. Subscribe for more breakdowns like this.